He should consider his course as a general map of the law, marking out the shape of the country, its connections and boundaries, its greater divisions and principal cities. It is not his business to describe minutely the subordinate limits, or to fix the longitude and latitude of every inconsiderable hamlet. His attention should be engaged, like that of the readers in Fortescue's Inns of Chancery, in tracing out the originals, and as it were the elements of the law. For if, as Justinian has observed, the tender understanding of the student can be loaded at the first with a multitude and variety of matter, it will either occasion him to desert his studies, or will carry him heavily through them, with much labour, delay, and despondence. These originals should be traced to their fountains, as well as our distance will permit, to the customs of the Britons and Germans, as recorded by Caesar and Tacitus, to the codes of the northern nations on the continent, and more especially to those of our own Saxon princes, to the rules of the Roman law, either left here in the days of Papinian, or imported by Vicarius and his followers, but, above all, to that inexhaustible reservoir of legal antiquities and learning, the feudal law, or, as Spellman has entitled it, the law of nations in our western orb. These primary rules and fundamental principles should be weighed and compared with the precepts of the law of nature, and the practice of other countries, should be explained by reasons, illustrated by examples, and confirmed by undoubted authorities. Their history should be deduced, their changes and revolutions observed, and it should be shown how far they are connected with, or have at any time been affected by, the civil transactions of the kingdom. A plan of this nature, if executed with care and ability, cannot fail of administering a most useful and rational entertainment to students of all ranks and professions. And yet, it must be confessed that the study of the law is not merely a matter of amusement, for, as a very judicious writer has observed, upon a similar occasion, the learner will be considerably disappointed if he looks for entertainment without the expense of attention. An attention, however, no greater than is usually bestowed in mastering the rudiments of other sciences, or sometimes in pursuing a favorite recreation or exercise. And this attention is not equally necessary to be exerted by every student upon every occasion. Some branches of the law, as the formal process of civil suit, and the subtile distinctions incident to landed property, which are the most difficult to be thoroughly understood, are the least worth the pains of understanding, except to such gentlemen as intend to pursue the profession. To others, I may venture to apply, with a slight alteration, the words of Sir John Fortescue, when first his royal pupil determines to engage in this study. It will not be necessary for a gentleman, as such, to examine with a close application the critical niceties of the law. It will fully be sufficient, and he may well enough be denominated a lawyer, if under the instruction of a master he traces up the principles and grounds of the law, even to their original elements. Therefore, in a very short period, and with very little labour, he may be sufficiently informed in the laws of his country, if he will but apply his mind in good earnest to receive and apprehend them. For, though such knowledge as is necessary for a judge is hardly to be acquainted by the lucubrations of 20 years, yet with a genius of tolerable perspicacity, that knowledge which is fit for a person of birth or condition may be learned in a single year, without neglecting his other improvements. To the few, therefore, the very few, I am persuaded, that entertain such unworthy notions of an university, as to suppose it intended for mere dissipation of thought, to such as mean only to while away the awkward interval from childhood to 21, between the restraints of the school and the licentiousness of politer life, in a calm middle state of mental and of moral inactivity. To these Mr. Viner gives no invitation to an entertainment which they never can relish, but to the long and illustrious train of noble and ingenious youth, who are not more distinguished among us by their birth and possessions than by the regularity of their conduct and their thirst after useful knowledge. To these our benefactor has consecrated the fruits of a long and laborious life, worn out in the duties of his calling, and will joyfully reflect, if such reflections can be now the employment of his thoughts, that he could not more effectually have benefited posterity, or contributed to the service of the public, than by founding an institution which may instruct the rising generation in the wisdom of our civil policy, and inform them with a desire to be still better acquainted with the laws and constitution of their country. End of